what does it really mean? And when you unpack it, what you realize is like fast money returns can completely really decay long-term thinking and sound judgment. And so I'm like, wow, I would really love to just compound at 15% a year. And the reason is because if I can do that for 50 years, that's $250 billion. It's some crazy number. Like, it's just enormous. So it's like slow and steady against hard problems. Start by turning off your social apps and giving your brain a break. I think the most important thing that you can do right out of the box is define your values.
You did grow up poor, is how you put it.
Welfare.
Tough situation.
Yeah, it was great.
How,
No, seriously, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
well, so I mean, seriously, was it?
It was incredible. I mean, in the time, it was horrible.
Of course.
We lived above a laundromat in Ottawa, Ontario, in a little French ghetto called Vanier. But I went to a really good high school, Lisgar Collegiate. Every little rich muckety-muck went there. I didn't. And so I secretly hated all of them. But what it really was doing was lighting this unbelievable fire, this like nuclear reactor inside my stomach, where I'm just like, I am just going to win. And, it wasn't really until Waterloo where it started to really unlock. Again, particularly in these work terms where I was in the work environment, I'm like, I can crush. I just knew that I could do it. So in hindsight, it was the best thing. Now, in part of it, why it was the best thing is I've now taken enough time to be introspective, to self-actualize, and to deal with it. But it came with immense amount of baggage. And for a while, it was like I just needed to be rich because I was so poor. And then you get there and then you're like, wow, this is really going to amplify either the best parts of my character or the absolute worst parts of your character. And there was probably a year where it was the worst parts of my character. But it's like, for me, it's been a journey of self-learning. And it was a hugely instrumental thing. Like I look at my children and I'm like, wow, like what boundary conditions could I possibly even remotely give them that will allow them to struggle in a way that makes them want to achieve great things?
Mm-hmm.
My name is Apurv. I saw some of the venture world at SoftBank, some of the tech world, and you said something about amassing capital. Today, what do you think is one of the best ways for us to amass capital on a risk-adjusted basis?
The last part is just such a sellout part. Or risk-adjusted base. I don't know, fucking buy some bonds. I don't know. Here's what I would tell you, man. I think if you ask me who's building the most important indelible company in the world, I've been very public about this. I think it's Jeff Bezos. Part of what he realized was the value of slow compounding. So here's my little theory about company value creation. The faster you build it, that is the half-life. It will get destroyed in the same amount of time. And so when you think about a lot of like social businesses, that's played out. And when you see sort of like the top, so like, does it take 8, 9, 10 years to build a really great consumer business? It'll take 8, 9, 10, 12 years to destroy it. And we may see the tipping point on a couple of these businesses. Right now, we may be seeing it in front of our eyes, regulatory or otherwise. So why is that an important statement? Amassing capital to me is about finding a smart, useful solution to a very hard, practical problem and being slow and methodical. And again, this is what I'm saying. You have to rewire your brain for that to be okay. How do you, in year 2 or year 5, come back to this room for your, what is it called when you get reunion? And say, I'm still working on the same thing. And when somebody says, and how's it going? You have the courage to say, it's hard. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know. But if you figure it out and you have this moderate growth, moderate compounding, that is the key. That's gold. I look at like our returns and it's so funny because it's like, you can get so enthralled by IRRs in our business. And like, I have friends who run other organizations and they're like, we posted 92% IRR. And I'm like, well, you can't eat IRR. What does it really mean? And when you unpack it, what you realize is like fast money returns can completely really decay long-term thinking and sound judgment. And so I'm like, wow, I would really love to just compound at 15% a year. And the reason is because if I can do that for 50 years, that's $250 billion. That's some crazy number. Like, it's just enormous. So it's like slow and steady against hard problems. Start by turning off your social apps and giving your brain a break. Because then you will at least be a little bit more motivated to not be motivated by what everybody else fucking thinks about you. Do you know what I'm saying? It's hard. Think about how all this stuff plays together. How does trying to get, posting your fucking waffles online relate to me starting a business and accumulating capital? This is wiring your brain for super fast feedback. It's the same brain you're using to build a company. Don't think they're not the same. So you're training your brain here, whether you think it or not, whether you know it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not. Acknowledge that these things where you're spending hours a day are rewiring your psychology and physiology in a way that now you have to use to go and figure out how to be productive in the commercial world. So if you don't change this, you are going to get the same behaviors over here. Change this.
So you've been outspoken about the Trump administration's position on immigration, on a number, these things are going to collide in government and business, right?
Yeah.
It's happening now.
Yeah.
So what do you want these future business leaders to do about it once they get into that spot?
Get the money. Get the money. And then let's get around a table and let's create new rules. I'm serious. Do not get it. It is going to be made. It is going to be allocated. And you have a moral imperative to make sure that if you have a point of view that matters and you want to reflect it, you get it. I'm going to go get it. Other people are going to go get it. And then it will be about a competition of views. It drives the world, for better or for worse. Economic incentives drive entire swaths of populations to behave in very, very predictable, and then when you take it away, unpredictable ways. Ask anybody in your class that's from a developing nation. Ask anybody in your class who has seen that play out from where they're from. So that's what you have to do. You got to go and get it. If you control the capital and you have a point of view, you can now, then the question is, don't be a sellout. Whatever your worldview is, you should be spending time to think about what that is, so that when you control some of these purse strings, you push that view into the world.
We are in this really huge secular transition away from degrees towards skills. It no longer matters where you went to school, what you did. Don't tell me you have an MBA. It's irrelevant. It's useless. Who gives a shit? Learn to code and you'll be employed for the rest of your life. I lost a kid, 24-year-old kid, to a big company in Cupertino where he got paid $175 grand a year and $600,000 guaranteed over 4 years in RSUs. And he's not done anything ever. So all of you should teach your kids how to code. All of you. You should learn how to code. But my point is, it's about skills now. And so that's another reallocation of trillions of dollars.
And there was probably a year where it was the worst parts of my character. But it's like, for me, it's been a journey of self-learning.
Amassing capital to me is about finding a smart, useful solution to a very hard, practical problem and being slow and methodical.
The Trump administration's position on immigration, on a number, these things are going to collide in government and business, right?
Yeah.
It's happening now.
Yeah.
So what do you want these future business leaders to do about it once they get into that spot?
Get the money. Get the money. And then let's get around a table and let's create new rules.
So all of you should teach your kids how to code. All of you. You should learn how to code.